In the fall of 1943 at the Philadelphia Naval Shipyard, sailors watch as a strange greenish fog begins to envelop the destroyer USS Eldridge. The ship vanishes from sight and, according to legend, from reality itself. This event would trigger a cascade of terrifying rumors of teleportation, madness, and men fused to steel. This created one of the most persistent and disturbing myths in U.S. military history. To understand the desperation that could fuel such a legend, you have to understand the year 1943. The world was at war. The Atlantic Ocean was a graveyard. German U-boats, hunting in wolf packs, were strangling the Allied war effort, sending millions of tons of vital supplies and countless lives to the ocean floor. Their primary weapon was the acoustic torpedo, a devastating device that homed in on the sound of a ship's propellers. But they also employed magnetic mines and torpedoes, which detected the massive steel hulls of destroyers and cargo ships. The United States Navy was locked in a frantic technological arms race. Victory depended on a decisive countermeasure. The accepted solution was a process called degaussing, wrapping a ship in electrical cables to reduce its magnetic signature. But according to the legend, a far more radical idea was being tested in Philadelphia, an idea born from the unfinished work of Albert Einstein himself. The theory was Einstein's unified field theory, a speculative concept that attempted to link electromagnetism with gravity. Proponents of the legend claim naval researchers believed that if they could generate a powerful enough electromagnetic field, they could do more than just hide from mines. They could bend light and radio waves around a ship, rendering it completely invisible to enemy eyes and equipment. The project was allegedly codenamed Project Rainbow. The technology required was immense. Massive generators were installed on the USS Eldridge, synchronized to produce a colossal electromagnetic field. The plan was to create a bubble of warped space-time around the vessel. The initial test, conducted in July 1943, was a terrifying success. The green fog appeared as predicted. The USS Eldridge vanished from sight on radar and to the naked eye, leaving only a clean indentation in the water. But when the generators were shut down and the ship reappeared, the human cost became brutally clear. The crew was disoriented, nauseous, and deeply disturbed. They spoke of a feeling of complete detachment from reality. It was a dark omen, a warning that the experiment was tampering with forces beyond military comprehension. The project was deemed too dangerous. But the war raged on. The pressure was unrelenting. And so, on October 28, 1943, a second and final experiment was ordered. This time the generators were pushed to their absolute limit. The green fog rolled in again, thicker and more vibrant. The USS Eldridge once more became invisible, and then it was gone. Not just invisible, but completely vanished with a blinding blue flash. 200 miles away at the naval base in Norfolk, Virginia, sailors on the merchant ship SS Andrew Furuseth reported the impossible. For several minutes, the USS Eldridge appeared in the waters near their ship before vanishing as mysteriously as it arrived. It had been teleported. Back in Philadelphia, the ship suddenly rematerialized, but the scene on its decks was a vision from hell. The experiment had gone catastrophically wrong. Some sailors were simply gone, victims of failed dematerialization. Others had been fused into the ship's metal structure, living men, their limbs and faces trapped forever in steel bulkheads, screaming in agony. The psychological toll was even worse. Many crewmen were driven permanently insane, their minds shattered by the experience. A few seemed physically unharmed, but were afflicted with a horrifying new condition. They would phase uncontrollably, temporarily vanishing from sight in front of their families or in public, only to reappear moments later, terrified. The legend is filled with grim anecdotes of a bar fight where one sailor simply vanished into thin air, never to be seen again. For over a decade, the story remained a whispered rumor in naval circles. Then in 1956, it found its chronicler. A writer named Morris K. Jessup, who had authored a book on UFOs, received a series of strange, rambling letters. The author was a man named Carlos Miguel Allende, later identified as Carl Allende, who claimed to have witnessed the entire event. Allende's letters were filled with precise, arcane detail. He described the green fog, the teleportation, and the horrific fate of the crew. He claimed the Navy was engaged in a massive cover-up, silencing anyone who knew the truth. His testimony formed the bedrock of the Philadelphia experiment myth, transforming a ghost story into a detailed conspiracy. He provided the names, the dates, and the alleged physics. He made the horror feel real. So what is the truth? Was a United States Navy destroyer subjected to a reality-bending experiment that ended in madness and death? The official answer from the Navy has always been a flat, unequivocal no. The truth is not one of secret technology, but of mundane procedure twisted by time and tragedy. The Navy confirms the USS Eldridge was involved in testing, but not for invisibility. The experiment was a classified project to install and calibrate new equipment. This included a process called degaussing, which involves wrapping the ship in large electrical cables and passing a powerful current through them. This counteracts the ship's magnetic field, making it invisible to magnetic torpedoes. This procedure was common for all ships. Furthermore, official ship's logs show a history that makes the October experiment impossible. During the alleged event, the Eldridge was on its shakedown cruise in the Bahamas. It was never even docked in Philadelphia before late 1943. The SS Andrew Furuseth's logs confirm it was not in Norfolk at the time of the alleged sighting. The historical record is clear. The ships were not where the story says they were. The greenish glow described by Allende? It could have been an electrical storm, common on the Atlantic coast, or St. Elmo's fire. The stories of sailors being disoriented were real, but common among men serving on ships packed with new experimental radar and sonar equipment. The legend, therefore, is a perfect storm of misinterpretation, a classified procedure witnessed by untrained observers. A mysterious loner, Carlos Allende, who may have fabricated his account or confused different events. And a public primed by the dawn of the atomic age to believe that government secrecy could hide almost anything. The story of men fused to steel was not a product of teleportation, but of a powerful, persistent, and terrifying idea. The legacy of the Philadelphia experiment is not found in naval archives, but in the landscape of modern paranoia. It became a foundational myth for a new kind of conspiracy theory, one where government was replaced by a sinister shadow state. This state was seen as capable of sacrificing its own citizens for forbidden knowledge, and its influence permeates science fiction. It persists because the official explanation, while factual, is unsatisfying. It lacks the terrible grandeur of the myth. The story of a simple degaussing trial cannot compete with a vision of a ghost ship, lost in time, its crew screaming from within the very steel of its hull. The Philadelphia experiment remains a chilling lesson. It shows how trauma, secrecy, and the human need for extraordinary explanations can create a legend more powerful than the truth.